"Excuse me, can I have this, please?" It was just before closing time at the small diner I run. A woman came to the register holding a takeout box with a discount sticker on it. When I heard the familiar voice and looked at the woman's face, there she was, my first high school love. Aged and matured, yet still reminiscent of her younger self. She was skinny and wearing tattered clothes, but it was definitely her. Miss Smith," when I exclaimed in surprise. She froze for a few seconds, then turned on her heel and tried to run away. I chased after her, dashing out of the diner, and called out to her on the street in front of the store. "Wait. Miss Smith, right?" The woman in tattered clothes shuddered and stopped. Back in high school, she used to share her lunch with me when I couldn't afford to eat a full meal. She was known as the most beautiful girl in school, the daughter of a wealthy CEO. Her life seemed so different from mine. While her father had passed away, making their family's finances tight, she was like someone from another world, unlike me, who wore ill-fitting uniforms. But now, she looked the complete opposite of her high school self. Far from healthy, very thin, and pale. What on earth had happened to her? Little did I know, this chance encounter would drastically change both our lives. My name is Jack. My family runs a small diner. Offering home-cooked, healthy meals at affordable prices was my father's policy. However, things drastically changed when I was in high school. Sales were growing steadily, and we were just starting to see more regular customers when it happened. My father suddenly passed away. It was an acute subarachnoid hemorrhage. My mother tried to act strong so I wouldn't notice, but she must have been shocked by the sudden loss of my father, her longtime partner. Her health deteriorated, and she found it difficult to stand for long hours at the diner, forcing us to reduce our operating hours. Furthermore, since my father primarily managed the business, our sales declined and the diner struggled financially. "Jack, here, take your lunchbox. Work hard at school today. Take care, okay? Thanks, Mom." Every day, I'm off. My mom used to pack me a homemade lunch every day. But, being a growing boy, I'll be honest, it wasn't quite enough to fill me up. Our family was financially strained at the time. Even so, my mom made me lunch every day. Knowing this, I couldn't bring myself to ask her to pack more. "Hey Jack, can I talk to you for a sec?" Lunchtime. I had just started eating the lunch my mom packed when Miss Smith from my class approached me. Miss Smith, known as the prettiest girl in school, and on top of that, a wealthy CEO's daughter. I was surprised that she would talk to me. "Miss Smith, what's up?" Miss Smith took a lunch wrap out of her bag and placed it on my desk. The wrap smelled delicious, and I involuntarily gulped. I can't finish my lunch, and it's too much. Actually, I don't really like the taste. "Would you like to have it, Jack?" "Really? Are you sure?" Miss Smith nodded, unwrapped the package, and opened the lunchbox. Her lunch looked like the fancy dishes you'd find in a department store food hall. Wow, I've never eaten such fancy food. "Miss Smith, are you sure it's okay? It's bland to me. My mom doesn't cook, so she just packs store-bought stuff. I'm tired of the taste." Miss Smith said that and then glanced at my lunchbox. "Jack, your lunch looks really good. Your family runs a diner, right? I've always admired home-cooked meals like that. If it's okay with you, Miss Smith, would you like some of my lunch?" "Really? If you don't mind, I'd love some." Despite my lunch being less lavish than Miss Smith's, she genuinely seemed happy eating it, saying it was delicious. From then on, Miss Smith and I started eating lunch together. One day, after the morning classes, as I was waiting for Miss Smith and spreading out my lunch, a classmate, Mike, teased me. "Hey, Jack, you're dating Miss Smith, right? It's the talk of the grade." Why would people think that? I was surprised and retorted to Mike, "How could someone as plain as me be dating the prettiest girl in the grade, Miss Smith?" "Because you and Miss Smith eat lunch together every day." "So, what's the deal? Are you two dating?" Mike seemed really curious if the rumors of me dating Miss Smith were true. "No, we're not dating. We're just having lunch together." I denied it, but felt a bit embarrassed that I was rumored to be dating the school's most beautiful girl, Miss Smith. What if Miss Smith was my girlfriend? I imagined her smile and felt my heart race. "Jack, sorry to keep you waiting. Let's eat." Miss Smith came over and sat next to me. "Miss Smith, yeah, let's eat." I remembered what Mike said earlier and couldn't help but blush. Jack, what's with that funny face? Come on, let's eat. Miss Smith, noticing my unusual behavior, placed her lunch on the desk with a puzzled look. Her lunchbox, as usual, was filled with lavish side dishes. No, it's nothing. Well, today's lunch looks really delicious too. I'm grateful. Just as I put my hands together to start eating lunch with Miss Smith, a loud voice came from right behind us. Well, Jack, you're getting side dishes from Miss Smith. Not satisfied with your own lunch, trying to eat someone else's. That's pretty low. Mike stood there with a mean smirk on his face. He always brags about being wealthy, with his father owning several companies. Your shoes are all worn out, and your uniform doesn't even fit right. You look so shabby. I feel sorry for Miss Smith, having to eat lunch next to you. It's true my family is poor, and I do share lunch with Miss Smith, but my mom works hard, and you have no right to say such things. Mike looked clearly displeased with my response. Mike, I also share my lunch with Jack. It's not like he's taking it from me. Don't say things like that. Miss Smith spoke up sharply. Mike seemed shocked by her words. Rumor has it that Mike has a crush on Miss Smith. Be careful, being around a poor guy like that might make you catch the poverty bug. Just so you know. Mike stomped away with heavy footsteps. Miss Smith, thank you. It's okay. I like the side dishes from your family's diner too. Thank you every day. I felt relieved by Miss Smith's words. Her kindness made my feelings for her grow stronger. And, you know, Miss Smith said, looking away from me, I'd be okay with dating you, Jack. What? Oh, only if it's not a bother to you. A bother? Me? Really? Yeah. So no matter what others say, let's continue to eat lunch together, okay? I could feel my heartbeat growing louder as I continued to eat lunch with Miss Smith. For the next 6 months, Miss Smith and I ate lunch together every day. Looking back, that was our way of dating. Mike, clearly not liking this, kept making snide remarks every chance he got. His comments escalated over these 6 months, eventually involving other classmates in his mockery. Jack is really poor and it's so annoying. Stay away from him or you'll catch his poverty bud, you know. Yeah. Sure, Mike. Mike was the type who once he targets someone, persistently harasses them in a mean-spirited way. Additionally, Mike was well known as the son of a rich family, and it was common knowledge that angering him could be troublesome. In contrast, I was the son of a poor family, always wearing ill-fitting uniforms. Everyone sided with Mike, and I became isolated in the class. Jack, I need to talk to you. While I was ignoring the insults and putting my textbooks away, Miss Smith approached me. Her expression was gloomy, and she was looking down. Miss Smith, what's wrong? Did something happen? I was puzzled by her unusual demeanor and looked closely at her face. I'm not eating anymore. What? I didn't understand what Miss Smith meant by her words. When I asked her in a panic, she wouldn't meet my eyes and murmured in a strained voice, I'm not going to eat lunch with you anymore, Jack. I felt like I had been struck by lightning. Sadness overwhelmed me and my vision blurred. Miss Smith, why all of a sudden? I don't want to anymore. Let's break up. She said this and left as if running away. Being with me, who was isolated, might have meant that she would start receiving insults too. So perhaps this was for the best. I had no choice but to convince myself of that. Miss Smith continued to avoid me, and from then on, I ate lunch alone. Not eating lunch with Miss Smith anymore meant no more insults from Mike and other classmates, but I felt a gaping hole in my heart. Half a year passed, and I never spoke to Miss Smith again until we graduated from high school. 8 years later, I was now 26 years old. Right after graduating, I trained for 2 years at a major restaurant chain as an apprentice chef, passed the culinary certification exam, and got my chef's license. I returned to the diner my mother was running to take over as her successor, maintaining the home-cooked, healthy, and affordable meals policy. It was a policy my father cherished, and I preserved the traditional flavors. Even as prices soared, I deliberately avoided raising our prices. It was a bold decision, but it paid off, and our sales steadily increased. Our home-style, health-conscious meals became a need of the times, and now our diner even gets featured on TV. Especially, we have a lot of female customers. Sometimes when I see a really beautiful woman, I think of Miss Smith. I wonder if Miss Smith is doing well. She must have become even more beautiful. As I was lost in thought, my mother called out to me, "Jack, it's almost closing time, so I'll start putting the discount stickers on." "Oh, yeah. I'll start counting today's sales." While my mother applied discount stickers to leftover takeout lunchboxes, I began counting the money in the register, trying to refocus. Just then, the door to the diner opened, and a woman walked in. She was wearing tattered clothes, and her hair was unkempt. As she picked up a discounted lunchbox and approached the register, "Excuse me, can I have this, please?" Hearing the familiar voice, I looked up to see Miss Smith, older and more mature but still bearing the traces of her high school self. "What? No way. Miss Smith?" Startled, I exclaimed, and she froze for a few seconds, then turned to run away. I was certain it was Miss Smith by her reaction, so I quickly chased after her. Bursting out of the diner, I shouted in the street, "Wait! Miss Smith, right?" The woman in tattered clothes shuddered and stopped. "Miss Smith, I never got to thank you for sharing your lunch with me back in high school. I've always wanted to see you. Jack, you." The woman who turned around was indeed Miss Smith, but she looked nothing like she did in high school. Far from healthy, very thin and pale. "Your diner, Jack, it's just like it used to be." I felt relieved to see it hasn't changed. "Never mind that, Miss Smith. What happened to you? You've lost so much weight, and you don't look well." "It's okay. It's nothing." Miss Smith turned her back to me and started to walk away. "Wait a minute, Miss Smith. It can't be nothing." I grabbed Miss Smith's arm, stopping her from leaving. She looked much less healthy compared to her high school days, almost as if she could collapse any moment. Miss Smith murmured in a faint voice, looking down, "The truth is, 2 years ago, Miss Smith's father developed a mental illness and began repeatedly going in and out of the hospital. He's still hospitalized, as he could no longer manage his business. Miss Smith, being an only child, took over, but things didn't go well, and the company went bankrupt. I tried to revive my father's company by borrowing money, but I couldn't do it. I've been working part-time jobs every day to try and pay it back, but there's still a lot left." Miss Smith's face looked like she was about to cry. "In high school, I ignored the poverty insults you endured, Jack. It's my fault. I'm equally responsible for turning a blind eye." She laughed self-deprecatingly, looking profoundly sad. The outside wind was cold. I remembered the weather forecaster on TV this morning saying today's low would be below freezing. In this bitter cold, her clothes were thin and tattered. Her body trembled from the cold. "Miss Smith, why don't you come over to my place?" Miss Smith looked up, surprised. Her amber eyes reflected my imag, just as beautiful as they were in high school. "It's chilly out. With those thin clothes, you might catch a cold. My place is warm and we have good food. If you're okay with it, Miss Smith, let's chat somewhere cozy." "But, is it really okay? I don't have any money." "You don't need money. Miss Smith, you helped me a lot in high school. I want to return the favor." "Thank you, Jack." Tears were welling up in Miss Smith's eyes. She must have gone through a lot of hardship. I took Miss Smith's hand, and we started walking together. In the below-freezing temperature, her hand, in the thin clothing, felt as cold as ice. Matching my pace to the slow, wary steps of Miss Smith, we walked in silence all the way home. When I arrived home with Miss Smith, my mother greeted us. "Oh my, Jack, I was worried when you suddenly ran off." She blinked in surprise at Miss Smith standing beside me. "Who is she?" "Mom, this is Miss Smith. Remember I told you about a friend from high school who shared her lunch with me? That's her." Hearing my words, my mother's face lit up with recognition. "Oh, Miss Smith, I've heard so much about you. I'm Jack's mother. Thank you so much for helping out when I couldn't do enough during his high school years." My mother sincerely thanked Miss Smith. No, don't mention it. I'm sorry for intruding like this. It must be a bother." "Not at all. It's wonderful to have you here. I was just happy Jack brought home such a lovely girl, and to find out it's you, Miss Smith, who helped him. Please, feel free to relax as long as you like." After saying this cheerfully, my mother disappeared into the kitchen to prepare dinner. "Miss Smith, are you eating properly?" Alone in the living room with Miss Smith, I asked her. She looked down and shook her head. I don't have much money, so I'm lucky if I can eat one meal a day. That's tough. Where are you living now? After failing to rescue my father's company and leading it to bankruptcy, I couldn't face him and began living alone. I was in an old apartment until recently, but couldn't afford the rent and was evicted a few days ago. Now, I'm homeless. Her voice was barely audible. Struggling for food and without a home. Desperate to help, Miss Smith, I racked my brain for something I could do. I know, Miss Smith. Why don't you work at our diner and live here? Our house still has the same layout from when my father was alive. There's extra space since it's just my mother and me, so we could provide a room for Miss Smith. Fortunately, our diner is thriving. My mother and I were just discussing hiring more staff, but I can't impose like that. It's okay, Miss Smith. My mother returned from the kitchen and said as she laid out the food on the table, "You can see she's in trouble, right? Our diner could really use some extra hands, and we'd be delighted if Miss Smith could work with us. Living here is more than welcome." Miss Smith's eyes welled up at my mother's words. "But I couldn't even save my father's company. How can I work here and live here too?" "It's okay. When Jack was in high school, I couldn't afford to make him lunch. Thanks to you, Miss Smith, he could graduate without health issues. You must be hungry, right? Come, eat." On the table were meat and potatoes, simmered dishes, miso soup, and white rice. "I'll partake." Miss Smith put her hands together and then took a bite of the meat and potatoes. "It's delicious. The taste hasn't changed since then." Tears fell from Miss Smith's eyes as she tasted the meat and potatoes. "After my father passed away, my mother took over the diner, and then it was passed on to me, preserving the unchanged taste. We had carefully preserved my father's flavors through the generations. My dad's recipe, I haven't changed it at all, still making it faithfully. Glad you like it." "That's true. It's really delicious," Miss Smith said as she took a bite of the simmered dish, recalling the past. "Back then, meals at home were painful. My parents were always fighting during meals. No matter how luxurious the food, it tasted bland. Hearing this pained me. My late father and mother always treasured mealtime, so I never experienced meals as a burden. To me, meals were always enjoyable. So, the thought of Miss Smith suffering through meals at home felt unbearable. "Jack, you always ate with such gusto. Lunchtime with you was enjoyable, filled with her stories. Those meals were delicious and the highlight of my days. In a way, you saved me." The fact that Miss Smith felt that way about our time together. I always thought I was the one being saved. Thanks to Miss Smith, I never had to worry about going hungry in class or getting sick from malnutrition. I believe my current health and rare sicknesses are due to the nourishment I received from the lunches Miss Smith shared with me during my growing years. Miss Smith, I was saved by you too. Thanks to you, I got stronger, and since you said my mom's cooking was delicious, I decided to take over the diner. Really. I was relieved to find the diner still here, just like it was in high school. Miss Smith smiled slightly. Despite being thin and weary, her smile was the same as in high school. "I thought you wouldn't recognize me. I've lost weight, look shabby, and my clothes are worn. I knew I was wrong to say I didn't want to eat lunch with you anymore and then show up at your diner. But I just really wanted to taste that flavor again." She thought I wouldn't recognize her because she had changed. But I did, and that's why she ran away. My mother, who had been quietly observing our conversation, spoke up. "After your father passed away, I fell and couldn't stand for long, so we had to reduce the diner's hours. Our income was decreasing, and I couldn't provide enough food in your lunchbox during your growing years. I've always regretted that." She smiled warmly at Miss Smith, a gentle smile with laugh lines at the corners of her eyes. But Jack never complained. He must have understood our financial difficulties. So, when I heard that a girl named Miss Smith was sharing her lunch with him and that he said my cooking was delicious, I was so happy. Miss Smith's tears fell at my mother's words. Jack's been mostly running the diner now, and it's gaining media attention, becoming well known. The diner's success today is thanks to Miss Smith sharing her lunch with Jack back then. Feel free to stay as long as you want, and if you're struggling, we can pay you a salary. Why not work here? Tears streamed down Miss Smith's face, wetting her cheeks and dropping onto the table. "Yes, I would be honored to work here. Thank you so much." Miss Smith cried for a while. I stroked her thin back, thinking about how I wanted to protect her. Miss Smith then started working and living at our diner, eating properly and sleeping well. She quickly regained her vitality and started radiating the same bright aura she had in high school. With her father's company having been in advertising, Miss Smith's advice on our ads drew attention. She helped with website creation, registering on major review sites, and producing videos for popular video platforms. As a result, our customer base grew day by day, and our diner became even more popular. Jack, our ad was on that video site again as a commercial. A customer told me about it. It's all thanks to Miss Smith, my mother happily reported to me. Indeed, since Miss Smith initiated our advertising campaign, we've seen an increase in customers and a broader customer base. We've been seeing more families and solo female diners, which were rare before, bringing more life to the diner. However, we've also had a surge in irregular male customers, especially on days when Miss Smith is handling the service. They peer through the diner's glass to see if Miss Smith is working, and if they spot her, they enter gleefully. On days when I'm on service, they leave disappointedly. It's quite obvious, but honestly, I have mixed feelings about it. 30 minutes before closing, Miss Smith and I were starting to prepare for the end of the day. Suddenly, the entrance door was flung open. "Hey, Jack, I've come to talk about a new deal." There stood a grown-up Mike, still bearing the traces of the face I saw too often in high school. "Mike, I told you to call ahead when you were coming. It's inconvenient when you just show up like this." "What's the big deal? My company's doing business with your diner. I can come whenever I want. You must have time anyway since you are always free." Mike was still as arrogant as ever. He had joined his father's real estate business and was now an executive. With our diner gaining popularity and considering expanding with more branches and employees, I was thinking about where to locate the new stores, but I had no knowledge about real estate. Upon consulting my mother, I learned that my late father was close to Mike's father's company. Hearing this, I contacted Mike's father. He agreed readily, and when he learned I was his son's former classmate, he started insisting that Mike handle the transaction. I didn't have a good impression of Mike and tried to gently decline, but Mike's father, misunderstanding that his son and I were friends, forced Mike to be in charge of the deal. I was anything but pleased. In fact, it was a nuisance. Reluctantly, I accepted since I had no other real estate connections. "Man, this place is a dump. It's small, and are you sure those TV interviews aren't a lie?" Mike started to look around the diner, nitpicking everything. This was exactly why I didn't want this. Sighing, I tried to ignore him. "Miss Smith, is that you, Miss Smith?" Mike spotted Miss Smith counting the sales in the back office and strode towards her. "Working at a shabby diner like this after your company went under. You've really fallen, Miss Smith." I felt a surge of anger at Mike's demeaning words towards Miss Smith and followed him into the back. There was Miss Smith. Something about her was off. It wasn't just surprise at seeing her former classmate Mike. She looked clearly terrified. "Hey, Mike, stop it." I grabbed Mike's shoulder, pulling him away from Miss Smith. Mike had an unpleasant grin on his face. "Think about it, Miss Smith. It's not too late to change your mind," Mike said before leaving with a casual "I'm heading out. See ya." What was the purpose of his visit? He just came to belittle our diner and scare Miss Smith. "Miss Smith, are you okay?" Despite my anger, recalling Miss Smith's terrified look, I asked her. Miss Smith's body was trembling. "Miss Smith, what's wrong? Why are you shaking? Did Mike do something to you?" Miss Smith remained silent. The silence lingered, and I quietly waited for her to speak. After what seemed like a long while, it was him. She finally whispered in a faint voice. "Huh? Mike was the one who harassed my father's company and ruined it." "What do you mean?" I listened to Miss Smith's story without rushing her. 2 years ago, her father fell ill, suffering from mental illness and frequently being hospitalized. It all started when several employees, who had been with the company for years, suddenly resigned. Miss Smith's father thought it was his fault and fell into despair, but he tried to stay strong for the remaining employees, the company, and his family. Half a year later, several more employees left the company. Then, after a short while, a few more resigned. Day by day, Miss Smith's father grew more distressed and began to be frequently hospitalized. leading the company towards instability. Miss Smith felt that something was clearly wrong. Her father's company had a familial atmosphere, with many long-serving employees. These employees, now looking gloomy, uniformly expressed their desire to leave, saying, "I want to quit the company." Miss Smith chased after a departing employee, Mr. Johnson, and asked him, "Mr. Johnson, why are you leaving the company? We've worked hard together for many years." "Miss, I am just exhausted. I heard that the company is hiding debts from the employees and is on the verge of bankruptcy. I have a family to consider. I can stay in a company that might go under." The rumor was that President Smith was hiding debts. The company was in severe debt, on the brink of bankruptcy. Its future looked bleak. The employees were told they should leave early and join our company instead. "We'll guarantee your salary." "That's nonsense. Who told you that?" Miss Smith had never heard from her father that the company was in trouble or in debt. But the fact that everyone she worked with for so long was leaving, causing her father to become depressed, was true. "So please come back." That's what Miss Smith pleaded. Hearing this, the former employee Mr. Johnson looked shocked. "Oh, really? Lately, many employees have left, haven't they? They all left for the same reason. The company is on the brink of bankruptcy. I heard from Mike, Mr. Johnson's son, your old friend. Miss Smith's father's company was being undermined by false rumors spread by Mike as if they were facts, creating anxiety among the employees. He whispered promises of a higher salary and employment at his company to those who resigned. Mike started harassing my father's company, and I had a suspicion why. When I started helping out at my dad's company after graduating college, I met Mike again at a business party." Miss Smith continued, her eyes downcast and teeth clenched in frustration. "Since that day, he persistently contacted me, asking me out and wanting to date, which I found really annoying. I knew from high school that Mike was a bad guy, so I had zero interest in him. One day, tired of Mike's constant advances, Miss Smith blocked his contact. Mike must have realized I blocked him. One day while I was at my dad's office, the office phone rang. It was Mike. Mike was so furious on the phone that his voice was unmistakably clear. "Miss Smith, you blocked my contact, didn't you? I'll never forgive you. I'll ruin your whole family," he said. I was so scared I immediately hung up. But the bankruptcy of my dad's company, it's because I angered Mike. After finishing her story, Miss Smith slumped, whispering weakly, "If I'm involved, your diner might be harassed next. I should leave this place." "No, Miss Smith, you haven't done anything wrong. You've contributed immensely to our diner. Sales have increased because of the website and ads you created. Your customer service skills are excellent. It's absurd to think of you leaving." Miss Smith shook her head and looked down. "I love this diner. You hired me when I had nothing left and treated me kindly. It's a warm place. I don't want to cause trouble by being here." I desperately tried to think of what to do. I wanted to work with Miss Smith at this diner, to see her smile bloom like it did in high school. I made up my mind. I will protect Miss Smith, and I will definitely protect this diner too. Miss Smith can't leave. She is essential to this place. "Leave it to me, Miss Smith." Mike, who had hurt Miss Smith, stolen her smile, and even dragged her family and beloved company into trouble, couldn't possibly continue to do business with us. We had to stop dealing with his company, and I was determined to ensure Mike would never attack Miss Smith again. I pulled out my smartphone and launched the messaging app. A few weeks later, Mike showed up at the diner. I had called him for a crucial talk about the deal at 1:30 p.m. that day. "Hey, Jack, I've picked out some perfect locations for your shabby diner's branches. I did it reluctantly since my dad asked me to. Let's go upstairs." "Mike, I've been waiting for you. Let's talk in the office." I led Mike to the office and closed the door behind us. "Mike, we're no longer doing business with your company. I've signed with a new real estate agent." I said this while looking down at Mike, who was arrogantly seated in the office chair. What are you talking about?" Mike glared at me with a sharp look. "Our gaze is locked. I know everything you did. I spoke with the former employees of Miss Smith's father's company who resigned with Miss Smith's help. You fed them all lies. I can deal with a company that lacks credibility. Your dad probably knows everything by now." Mike's face turned red with anger. his body shaking visibly. What? What do you mean my dad knows everything? The former employees of Miss Smith's father's company were overworked and unjustly treated at your company, often working late and being scolded by you for no reason. All on your orders, right? When I told them about Miss Smith's father's illness and hospitalization, they were full of regret. Furious at your tyrannical behavior, they've gone to your father's company to expose your wrongdoing. Right now, as we speak, I informed Mike that my representative would be visiting his father's company today at 1 p.m. to discuss important matters regarding our future dealings. Half an hour ago, Miss Smith's former colleagues should have arrived at Mike's company, probably exposing his misdeeds by now. As I was telling him this, my smartphone began ringing loudly. I saw Mike's father's name on the display and pressed the call button. Hello, this is Jack. Mr. Anderson. Jack, yes, it's Mike's father. I've just been talking to your representatives. I called to verify if what they're saying is true. Yes, it's all true. They were misled by Mike into resigning, and many have been struggling to find new jobs, with some losing their jobs altogether. Miss Smith's father is currently hospitalized due to mental illness. So it is true. My son is there with you, isn't he? Sorry to ask, but could you put Mike on the phone? I handed the phone to Mike, who was pale and trembling as he took it. Hello, Dad. Mike, what on earth have you done? Do you understand the gravity of your actions? His father's voice was so loud I could hear it through the phone. Dad, it's not like that. I just wanted to scare them a bit. What you did is criminal. I don't want to see your face again. Get out of my company, and don't you dare come back home. The call ended abruptly, and Mike was left looking shell-shocked, with only despair in his hollow eyes. Mike. Miss Smith approached Mike from the back of the office. Miss Smith, I'm sorry. I'll pay any amount. Please persuade my father. If I can stay at the company or even at home, where can I go? Mike, I'll never date you or forgive you, no matter how much money you offer. You're an adult now. You should take responsibility for your actions. Miss Smith firmly told Mike, who momentarily froze and then hung his head in defeat. Then, with the help of Mr. Johnson, a former employee of Miss Smith's father's company, I partnered with a different real estate firm and opened a new branch. Mr. Johnson, who had found re-employment in a real estate-related company, helped me immensely in selecting the location for our new branch. Miss Smith, I was misled by Mike's lies and deeply regretted the consequences it had on your father's mental health. Being able to assist in your work now is very fulfilling for me. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I recently visited my father in the hospital. Truth is, I felt guilty for not being able to save his company and hadn't visited him for a long time. But both my parents were so happy to see me. They said the company's bankruptcy wasn't my fault and were just glad to see me. Miss Smith's father, knowing his daughter was working hard at our diner, seemed very relieved. Her mother, also present during the visit, was fully supportive. Her father's condition is gradually improving, and a discharge date is set. Our diner has successfully opened a new branch in front of a station in a neighboring town. We've hired a few more employees, and our performance continues to rise. I'm glad to see Miss Smith back to her cheerful self, engaging with customers with her lovely smile. A year has passed, and I've been successfully expanding the business. Despite the growth in new branches, our core mission remains the same: to provide home-cooked, healthy meals at affordable prices. After closing for the day, as I was calculating today's sales in the office, Miss Smith returned from finishing the closing tasks. Miss Smith, great work today. Sales were really good, thanks to your customer service and the ads you created. Thank you, Jack. Great job today. No, it's because of the delicious meals you and your mom make. But I'm happy. Thank you, Miss Smith said to me with a smile that blossomed like a full bloom. My heart raced at the charm of her smile. Jack, you know, I've always regretted the way I ended things in high school. I don't want to eat lunch with you anymore. Let's break up. Remembering those words, my heart felt a sharp pang. Yay, that happened. But I don't mind it anymore, really. At that time, Mike and the classmates were bad-mouthing me, and I thought you'd get dragged into it. I even thought it was for the best. It's not that. I knew Mike was involving classmates and spreading rumors about you. I thought being with me would cause you trouble, so I felt I had to distance myself. But I couldn't express it well, and I ended up saying it like that. "I'm really sorry." I was taken aback by Miss Smith's unexpected words. She looked directly into my eyes. "I regret not being able to convey my feelings properly to you back then, hurting you with my words. I'm really sorry. Miss Smith, I don't want to have regrets anymore. I still like you, Jack." I felt my face getting hot. I had continued to harbor feelings for Miss Smith since high school. "I've always liked you too, Miss Smith. Will you be my girlfriend again?" Miss Smith nodded with a smile, and I couldn't help but smile back. I took her hand in mine. Now, surrounded by loved ones, I continue my father's philosophy of offering home-cooked, healthy meals at an affordable price. I'm determined to keep working hard every day to protect the smiles of the important people in my life and our customers.